Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Hey, thank you so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 975. Well, hey, today we are going old school on you. We are going back to the epitome of the type of interview that I had in mind when we first started this show way back in 2014. I'm going to be speaking with Mr. Kyle Stockdale. He's coming to us out of Ontario, Canada. And he is a joint owner on a dairy farm with his parents there in Ontario, and the owner of Kai Vision Sharpening and Clipper Repair. And I'll tell you what, we talked dairy to start, and then we got into his business. And this young man, 25 years old, he has self-taught himself into being a excellent marketer and an incredible businessman. Really excited to profile him for you, and we're going to get that started for you right now. Kyle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, Matt.
You bet. Hey, I'm excited, and I want to say thank you very much for being a listener to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. That's also for reaching out and telling me about your business. As soon as I saw what you did, I realized your business is like the prototypical type of business that I started this podcast to profile. And so I was very excited to get that message from you. Thank you again.
No, thanks for having me. It's I said it's a nice way to pass the time while you're working in the barn or if I'm working in the shop, just to have something kind of going in the ears, and to have it about agriculture is a bonus because there's not a lot of them.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you located? What's the name of your business? And tell us about your farm as well.
So I am in Keene, Ontario. It's kind of east central Ontario, up in Canada. We're maybe 2 hours southeast of Toronto. Um, So the business outside of the farm is Kai Vision Sharpening and Clipper Repair. It's a clipper repair and sharpening shop, sharpen clipper blades as well as scissors, knives, some other stuff. And the farm, we milk 100 cows. Myself, my wife Carrie, our two kids, Caden and Brinley, who are 4, and Brinley's a COVID baby born this past June. And my parents, Kirk and Sherry, own the farm, and so we milk 100 cows here. We actually milk with 2 robots now in a sand bedded freestall. So we've renovated the barn. We bought the place, or my parents did, back in 2014, and we've kind of changed some stuff, renovated some stuff, and then I've got my own herd of jerseys kind of within the herd of Holstein cows here. So that's kind of what we're doing.
All right. So you and your wife, you've got 10 or 15 head of Jersey cattle in that 100 cow milking string. Am I
Yeah,
understanding that right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You've got her.
So what led to why did you guys go with jerseys, I guess? Why did you divert or away from the Holsteins?
Honestly, the short answer is I'm really not sure. So I grew up. There was a friend of mine, same age as me, and we kind of grew up through 4-H. He was one county over, and they're all jerseys. And I can remember all through 4-H teasing them about having jerseys. And then, well, I went and I bought a bunch of them. So I maybe can't tease him anymore. So basically, how the Jersey herd started, and this actually kind of ties back into kind of the starting of Kai Vision as well. Um, the Jersey herd started. I used to clip cattle for shows and sales and stuff like that, and also just barn clipping in the barns of various dairy farms, kind of all throughout Canada and into the United States a little bit. And that was probably the first the last couple of years I was in high school. First couple of years after I was out, never went to college. Told my parents it was better to go make money than spend it.
Hmm.
So I was at a farm that's about an hour from us here. Herd clipping, an older Dutch gentleman, a really awesome guy. Probably one of the nicest people I know in the industry, and he's now since sold out, and we bought some cattle in his dispersal sale as well. But there is a bred Jersey heifer that I went. She was there just springing up with her first calf. The one time I was there clipping, and I saw her out in the dry cow barn. I thought that's a really nice heifer, and didn't really think much else of it. Well, the next time I was back, she had calved, and she'd calved in quite nice at a really nice udder, and I thought she kind of calved in the way I thought she would. Again, didn't think a lot of it. So we kind of come up to spring of 2014, it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was back again clipping. And that year, and this is going to get a long-winded answer. Uh, so the spring of 2014, I was back again clipping there, and she was now pregnant. She was due in the fall, and just out of curiosity, I asked the gentleman, well, what do you need to have for her? And this would have been the first Jersey cow I had ever purchased. I had no idea what she was worth, sort of thing. And she came with a nice pedigree. And so he priced her to me, and he gave me a deal where he wanted 3,000 for her. He said, "You give me $1,000 a month for 3 months, sort of thing. Let me term it out a little bit to really make it easy." And I felt bad, but that year we were splitting away from the home farm. We used to milk cows, my dad with his brother and his
Mm-hmm.
parents, 20 minutes away. And of course, with our quota system, you can only handle so many people at home. Um, so I had two cousins wanted to come home. I wanted to come home. So my parents bought this farm we're at now as an ongoing farm, ongoing dairy operation, quota cattle, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle kept the home farm with my cousins. So that was the same year as this Jersey cow I found. It was 2014. So I asked this older gentleman, would you hang on to her till June when we close on the new farm, so I could just bring her right there. I didn't have to worry about causing any more stress
Okay.
at home. And he did that for me. He didn't have to, but he did do that for me. And we ended up calving her out there in the fall, and that calf I sold, and that calf went on to be reserve junior All-American at the Louisville show here
Really?
as a milk. So that was really cool. That was the start of the jerseys, and the I think why I've kind of stuck with them is over the Holsteins, and this is nothing against anybody that breeds Holsteins, but the people in the Jersey breed are some of the nicest people I think I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
Very supportive. There was another young cow that I bought as a fresh 2-year-old from actually my 4-H leader at the time, and I didn't have any money, no money at all, and I saw her in his barn just fresh, and said she was a nice heifer. And a week later, he called me and says, "Do you want that cow?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any money." He said, "That's not what I asked." He said, "Do you want the cow?" I said, "Well, yeah, she's a nice young cow." So he sent her to me, and he said, "You just pay me when you can." So I
Hmm.
did, and she had a really successful year showing that year. She won our summer show as a senior two, and was reserve all Ontario senior 2-year-old that year, and she's still in my herd now and has a couple of daughters. So yeah, there's a couple of things there that have yeah the Jersey breed and the people involved in it are just very nice and willing to work with you.
That is great. I mean, I know a lot of really nice people in the Holstein world too, but like you're saying, you kind of found your people there in the Jersey world, it sounds like.
A little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's a great story, and what a great way to get started. Now, I want to get into your business here in a minute, but I'm always so curious about the quota system in Canada. So, can you, for all of us down here in America in the United States, could you kind of explain to us what the quota system is and how that impacts you farming in Canada?
Excuse me. I'll give you the Coles Notes version. As we go any deeper than that, we're going to be on here for about 3 podcasts.
Okay.
Uh, the Coles Notes version is basically the quota system is quota is our license to produce milk. So I can't just walk off the street, decide I'm going to milk 20 cows find a barn, rent a barn, whatever, and start shipping milk. I can't do that. So you're basically you buy it in kilograms. Um, and that the old adage used to be that a kilogram was basically your license to produce milk for one cow for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's obviously changed with the amount of milk that today's cattle are capable of producing. So yeah, basically the quota system is our license to produce milk, and we're capped at a certain amount of milk we can produce and ship um, based on how much quota we own. So that can make it tougher for smaller farms to make a go of it, especially if they can't keep their costs under control or to what I'll call a minimum level.
Mm-hmm.
But it also provides us with a guaranteed uh, milk price that is guaranteed to be above the cost of production.
Okay.
So basically, make sure that we can actually stay in business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Okay.
right, wrong, and different. There's some days I hate it because it kind of limits your growth. There's some days I absolutely love it because I know that we're going to get X amount of money every
Sure.
month, and it's going to be somewhat regular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, your milk price still fluctuates, but it's by a few cents, not a few dollars.
And
uh,
when you're factoring in like the cost of production, they guarantee that you will make above the cost of production. Is a salary for you or a salary for your dad or something like that, is that included in that cost of production? Or do you guys have to
no,
take
no,
that has to come from your profit?
no, yeah, no, yeah, that's gotta, yeah. Any payment for you as a dairy farmer has to come out of the profit that your dairy
Mm-hmm.
farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when your parents decided to split off, they had to, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but I don't know how else to put it. Did they have to apply for like permission from the government to start another dairy?
No, so they bought what would be termed as an ongoing dairy farm. So a farm that was already in production,
Okay.
and was currently shipping milk. It was three brothers and their father.
Mm-hmm.
The father was 82 years old and still working, probably more than he needed to.
Okay.
So and the three sons, they were all in their kind of 50-ish sort of age range, and they didn't really see a point in carrying on. None of their kids were jumping to jump in as the
Okay.
next generation. At the time, it was a 90 cow dairy, which is big enough for this area, especially considering it was a 90 cow tie stall, where you got to bring those milking machines to the cows.
Mm.
Um, so that was basically all they needed was the large lump sum of money to put down um, on this farm to make it feasible. And the only way it worked was my grandparents have always been very smart financial people, and they had through their investments in their life, they had worked up enough money that they didn't need any money out of the home farm. So they actually each gifted a quarter. My
Mm.
grandpa gifted his quarter of the farm to my dad, my grandma her quarter to my uncle, and that gave my uncle the assets to be able to buy out my dad for the appropriate amount, like for market value.
Okay.
Um, and then we were able to take that buyout and come put that down on the farm we're at now, which allowed the whole thing to work. So
Boy, I'll tell you, I like hearing stories about families that work like that. You know, where it doesn't sound like there's any drama. It sounds like everybody had everybody else's best interests at heart, and it worked. It's a nice, refreshing story to hear.
I won't say it was like that.
Okay.
I didn't say it was all sunshine and roses. Um, but yeah, grandma and grandpa, they made that happen.
That's great.
It would not have happened without them. Like, you cannot argue the fact.
Yeah.
And we'll be forever grateful for that. Um, so I guess I don't go saying it was perfect and it was pretty,
Okay. I will
it,
not
but
say it was perfect.
but it did get done, and it got done where everyone could move forward in the industry, and so that was the important thing.
Okay. All right. Well, Kyle, let's talk about your business. So, KY or Kai Vision, sharpening and clipper repair. So obviously that came out of your experience in all of this, but tell us how it emerged and when you started it.
So I actually kind of half did it back in 2012, 2013 sort of area. When I was still clipping and fitting at shows and sales and that sort of stuff. All dairy cattle. I never got into fitting any other species
Mm-hmm.
or beef cattle or anything like that. Maybe should have, but didn't.
Okay.
So when I was doing that, I was still trying to sharpen some blades and fix some clippers, but it really I didn't have the time. I know I always had my own sharpening wheel just because I figured it was too expensive to send them away to have someone else do them. I didn't want to pay that and be waiting on my blades to be mailed back to me. So I had bought my own wheel. It was the first thing I purchased. My parents, they gifted me a pair of clippers for Christmas the one year, and between after that, it was just clipping as much as I could, making money and buying equipment as I could. And the wheel was one of the first things I bought. So I did sharpen some blades and whatnot, but the that kind of all got put on the back burner because I just didn't have the time. And then
Mm-hmm.
2014 with the move from the home farm to the farm we're at now, that was kind of everything just put on the back burner. And 2018, January of 2018 was when it really started again. We had a room in the basement that was unfinished. It was cement floor. It was heated. Got Wi-Fi. Like you couldn't ask for much better of a shop. And because I'm working with stuff that isn't real large, like a pair of clippers obviously fits in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't need this massive space for what I was doing. I actually started with just one little workbench. And Facebook Memories is kind of a cool thing. That video, the original video I took of the shop when I just had the one workbench, it popped up with my memories a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, Kind of wild to see how I got started with that. So I outfitted this room in my basement and excuse me, and kind of went from there. After that, it was I believe the April of 2018, so 4 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was another guy, and I was actually in 4-H with him. He was a couple years older than me. Again, another county over, and he had kind of bought slash inherited a repair and sharpening business from his boss, who was a manager of the co-op up there, the feed store.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he didn't really, whether he didn't want to or he didn't have the time, he never really did a lot with the business. But it was kind of a known fact that he was there, but because he didn't really have a passion for it, he didn't get as many customers as he could have, I don't think. Um, so long story short, I called him the one night, and this is just me looking to be shrewd and poachy, I guess. I said, "Hey, how much would it cost for your customer list?" He says to me, "Well, why don't you just buy the whole damn thing?" Um, so again, being kind of shrewd and cheap, I asked him what he wanted, and he said he had to have 2,000. I said, "Well, what about 2,500? And you give me 6 months to pay for it." He said, "That's fine." So that was yeah, you may be seeing a theme here. I never have a big lump sum of money, but I can figure out payments.
That's okay. That's smart, right? That helps you bootstrap it.
So and that was two large workbenches, four sharpening wheels, some other equipment, a pile of parts, um, and basically just the kind of the whole takeover of another business in the area kind of helped me with a lot of people. I know there was a couple of guys that actually had drove up to this fella's place. Their clippers had been sitting there for a couple of months and picked them up. And before I had got all the equipment home, they had dropped the clippers off at my place already. So
Mm.
uh, it's coming along. It kind of grew quick, um, or I don't know, relatively quick.
Mm-hmm.
So and yeah, I've been fairly aggressive, I guess you could say, on Facebook. That first year, 2018, January 2018, January 2019,
Hmm.
I kind of grew the whole online Facebook following, that stuff. And then the following year, let's say January to January of 2019 to 2020, I made myself, whether you call it a New Year's resolution or not, I told myself I was going to post a post every day for
Okay.
that year. And I did. And a lot of, sorry, a lot of different articles and a lot of stuff for 4-H kids
Hmm.
learning to clip their own stuff and kind of some how to keep your clippers in shape. Of course, some for sale posts. I do buy and sell used clippers
Awesome.
and blades. So, yeah, that was kind of how that went. And then I guess kind of been branching out from there. Branched into doing some different stuff like pet groomers. That's kind of where we're at now is between pet groomers and multiple parts of the agricultural industry, whether it's beef or dairy cattle, some sheep, equine and horse folks there as well.
Uh-huh.
That makes up the bulk of it. But dairy is still my mainstay. That's where everyone knows me from. And so,
Man, I love the goal setting you did with a post every day to grow your business. And it's such a great, reasonable, achievable goal. And it seems like, well, I don't know. I mean, doing one post a day doesn't sound like a lot, but once you start trying to do that, it is a lot. And obviously, you're going to be very busy because you get the dairy going on as well. So I love that goal setting. And I'm learning about that myself, to be honest with you. And it's very impactful what it can do to help grow and expose your business. I wanted to ask you about this. You guys had just transitioned to this new dairy to give you the ability to make a living on it there with your folks. Why did you want to start a side business rather than just be full time in dairy farming?
put it in a word, money. Um,
Okay.
so I don't know whether I get paid a lot in relative terms, like from the farm. Like I take a salary
Uh huh.
uh, from the farm, and so whether it's I just didn't figure it was big enough, or I really don't know why. Probably just to buy more Jersey cows, to be honest.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, money. Like it always seemed to. You're like I said, I'm 25, so 3 years ago, 22 years old. Your world kind of revolves around having enough cash to do what you want.
Uh huh.
And there's a couple different things. Looked into buying a cattle trailer, and 22 years old, you go to the bank and hey, this is what I want to do, and
Mm-hmm.
they look at you and say no. So well, I'm gonna make my own money. So that
Okay.
was kind of I knew how to do this when I was clipping. I always fixed my own stuff. Kind of learned self-taught ish.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up tips and tricks here and there from different fitters and different guys that were kind of in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just saw basically an opening that no one's doing this and focusing on agricultural clients
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. And the ones that are kind of half doing it with half of their business kind of focused on agriculture, their marketing is atrocious.
Mm.
They're very quiet and no one knows about them
Mm-hmm.
unless you're very involved.
Okay.
Um, so that was, I figured, well, I can do it. And again, I'm young now. That first 2 years, I'm going to say 2018, January 2018 to January 2020. Um, there was not a whole lot of nights I went to bed much before midnight, 1 a.m. And there
Sure.
was multiple nights that it's 3, 4 a.m. and you got to
Mm-hmm.
be up to milk cows at 6. So that that is that's the way it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really believe that you can start something without putting in those kind of hours
Right.
if you want to be successful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just
No,
just
you're
like
not
to
wrong.
think
You're
the hard way. But
no.
yeah, so that was kind of, I think honestly, I think the reason was there was no one that was doing it and doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
and and it was an extra revenue stream that I could do around chores.
Sure. Well, a couple things. One, you're absolutely right. There's no way to start and transition, or in your case, you're not even transitioning. You're going to run both, but you've got to go through that crazy time because they're both things are going to require a ton of hours from you for a while. So everybody's got to go through that, and this is especially true for my listeners who want to transition out of their full time jobs. They're going to have a period of weeks or months where they're going to be doing both almost full time, and it's going to be crazy. And you did that, but you kept with both. You know, I know you said money was the reason that you wanted to start this, but I'll tell you what I hear when you tell the story. What I hear is what you just said just a second ago, which is I could do it. I could do it better than anybody else, and nobody was doing this very well. And it was just kind of sitting there. You're looking at it and going, this is crazy. It's just sitting there. And for some of us that just drives us. Something sitting there and nobody's taking advantage of it. And what are you going to do? Tell somebody, "Hey, you should go start the sharpening business." They don't care, right? And
No,
so it just drives us nuts and we've got to start it. We've got to do it. That's what I'm hearing from you. Am I anywhere close to accurate on that?
I you honestly could be. I honestly couldn't tell you, hey, this was the one reason. I That's the one thing with me. I don't ever, if I'm gonna do something, I don't ever want to have just one reason for doing it. I
Uh-huh.
better have multiple reasons for
Okay.
doing it, or it's not worth doing
That's a
in
great.
my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe that's wrong, but
No.
that's kind of how I look at it. So
That's a wonderful way of looking at it. Now, I think that's really good to set those parameters because it keeps you from being one dimensional, which can burn us out. So, no, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that statement, Kyle. Okay, so you talked about how other people were trying to do it, but they were basically silent. Their marketing wasn't very good. So let's talk about your marketing then. So we know about the Facebook post, we know about social media. What else have you done to market and grow this business?
Uh, tried a couple of different things. Like I said, Facebook is by far and away the biggest thing, and I I know it in my own head and my own heart that I need to do other things other than Facebook, and I need to do them just as well as I do Facebook.
Uh huh.
And frankly, I need to do Facebook better because you always need to be getting better. Um, Instagram's kind of the next thing I'm looking at, and Snapchat is one of my favorites.
Okay.
How do you market as well on Snapchat, especially someone like me who isn't super comfortable with face to face or camera to face sort of video? I'm not super comfortable with it.
Uh huh.
Um, so it's a learning process, always learning, always thinking. There's a couple different things. One was sponsoring different things like shows or fitting contests, stuff like that. Doesn't take much to do. You know, $50 here, $100 there, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets your name out to your target demographic. That's maybe not that maybe falls in the category of giving back more than it does marketing. But I do think it helps. There is actually, you can see slightly behind me, by my left shoulder here, that's a rack of clipping coats. I had some clipping coats and
Mm-hmm.
hats,
Oh, cool.
some other different apparel, kind of made up there. A lot of kids really like the clipping coats, so I sold a bunch of them actually for Christmas gifts this year,
That's great.
and it given out some, of course, too, just for different prizes and whatnot. Um, Hold different contests. That was a big thing I found. Um, Holding contests either through the Facebook page. That was probably the most often how it went.
Mm-hmm.
Um, different sort of raffles and stuff like that. Worked really well. Being involved in a lot of different groups on Facebook. Um, so you're like, there's all sorts of dairy cattle and show supplies
Uh huh.
and equine groups. There's all sorts of different groups. And because my business can kind of touch a lot of different segments of a couple of different industries, there's quite a wide customer base to be involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I found myself kind of on my Facebook page almost spreading, almost getting sporadic with my content because I'd be over here with one industry and then over
Mm-hmm.
here with the next industry the next week. And so I actually made my own Facebook group as well called the Fitter's Friend,
Awesome.
which is all my dairy cattle fitting stuff. It all goes in there. And some of it still gets posted on the main page as well. I will never forget about that industry and that side of it. That's what started me. That is still my driver and still my reason to keep doing this. Um, but the realistic approach was you got to filter out some of it to let the other industries know, especially when you get random people off of Facebook or whatever. And I've pushed a lot of Facebook ads as well, done multiple ads, whether it's a boosted post or whether it's
Okay.
an actual video made for an ad and then targeted to a specific area, specific demographic, specific age group, um, all sorts of different things like that. You might be familiar, I don't know, but there's a fella by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh yeah.
He's got a podcast. That is Gary V's podcast is my Bible. That
Uh-huh.
was I, I started listening to that actually right around the same time I started running the business, and it was just the guy that had the most content
Mm-hmm.
just fill my ears while I was working away. And so that always keeps me thinking, keeps the creative juices flowing. Um, so that helps quite a bit, I think. And again, another guy that's not afraid to put in quite a bit of work. For those of
Yeah.
you that don't, sorry to shout out another podcast on your
No,
podcast,
I've
but
done that. I've done that. I've recommended Gary Vaynerchuk on the air. I interviewed a young lady from West Texas who's a great entrepreneur about 3 months ago. And during the interview, I said, man, you have got to tune in to Gary Vaynerchuk. He's going to inspire you. You just have to kind of ignore the F bombs. But other than that, he's going to inspire you, and he's got a lot of great ideas. And then I did an episode, I did something a while back because for me, for a while there, for a few months in a row, getting up in the morning, I was watching a Gary Vaynerchuk video or listening to something he had to say, and that really inspired me, and it just set my day right and really got me going. And I don't know why I needed that right during those few months, but yeah, I'm a huge fan. The guy has got unbelievable work ethic and no BS at all, which I really
no,
like the combination of
no.
those two things.
Yeah, actually, for that, you mentioned the cursing there. There is a Gary V curse free for those of you that
Okay, good.
every 5 minutes. Me, I'll be honest. Me, if you heard me talking in my day to day life, I'm not too far off of him. I'm censoring myself now, so maybe I get along with it better because of that. Um,
Okay. Well,
yeah, that was kind of what I did for as far as marketing was just try to think of anything that I could do different that someone in my space hadn't done yet.
okay.
And it maybe been done 5 different times in another space. But if
That's
you haven't seen it in agriculture,
yeah.
then no reason why you can't be the first.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Okay, let me ask you about merchandise. So, how many different pieces of merchandise? You've got the clipping coats. You've got the hat. What else do you have?
So I also did a run of hoodies that a lot of people actually really liked. And I work with a lady that's in Western Ontario. She's a sheep producer. She's always been involved in 4-H. She's been involved in dairy cattle growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and really awesome lady. And the shirts. Actually, hang on a minute here. I've got a. I did some T-shirts too. This is just for me and a couple of buddies that I clip with, but you might be able to see.
Oh, nice. Okay, so for
So
everybody listening, audio only, very cool blue T-shirt says "Stay Sharp" on it. Great shirt.
yeah, so the hoodies have the same stay sharp saying or slogan or whatever you want to call it there
Okay.
as well. And really like that. And that was all her brainchild. basically told her, you know what, if you have an idea that comes to mind, I've got ideas when it comes to how to market my business
Mm-hmm.
and how to market cattle. That's also, we try to do a bit of that with the jerseys as well. And this year actually are trying to step up that as even further. We bought 4 cows in the last month, so trying to get that ahead as well. But so I know how to do that. I don't know how to come up with stuff for
Yeah.
apparel. So
Right.
I actually I had an ex 4-H member again that was kind of Ottawa way. Um, she did the logo for me, and she also did the logo for my Jersey herd as well.
Mm-hmm.
And very talented young lady with limited time, so she doesn't do a lot of it. But I'll give her a shout out, Emma Caldwell. She's really talented young lady and does a good job.
Do you have a
And
Facebook
then
page or anything like that we could link over to?
I don't know if she does or not. I will. You know what? I'll look that up when we get off, and I'll shoot you an email if she
Okay.
does. You guys can give her
Yeah,
a
we'd be
shout
happy
out.
to do that. Yeah.
Um, Wendy at Farmstead Ag Swag Solutions is the lady that does my apparel,
Okay.
and Wendy's the brains behind all the Stay Sharp thing was completely her idea, and we're working on some other stuff right now actually, and just kind of
That's
getting
great.
off the post Christmas lag.
Well, let me ask you, so with the merchandise, did it start out as another source of revenue for you, or did it start out simply as a marketing tool? And has it changed since you started selling it?
Couple things. So the hats were something that was started purely just for marketing.
Okay.
Um, that was something I started with hats, and then a lot of people said, "Well, hey, can I buy one?" And so that kind of leads to, yeah, you can give me your money. Um, so I still I've probably given out way more than I've sold. Um, but there will be people, like I said, I sold a bunch of clipping coats for kids for Christmas, and their parents and the kids themselves usually will follow along on my social medias and saw
Hmm.
read my posts and whatnot and saw value. So that was kind of how it started. The hats was purely for marketing,
Okay.
led to some sales, and then the coats I thought would be the coats have probably been the other way. I thought I'd sell more of them, and I've actually end up
Okay.
marketing more with them. So
Okay.
if I'm going and I'm like I clipped, we had a big show in Red Deer um, back in October, maybe. I'd
Hmm.
have to look back at my calendar to be honest, but we had a big show in Red Deer, Alberta, that I was asked to come out and clip for. I don't clip a lot anymore, outside of my own cattle and maybe some friends from time to time. But this lady had asked me, and she's actually been a Kai Vision customer. She sent me a message asking if I would know anyone that would want to come out and if I would want to come out and clip. So I
Hmm.
did that. And I brought a buddy, so gave him a coat to kind of wear out there, and
Hmm.
you know,
Well, Kyle, it's great about the merchandise, man. I love that idea. I want to ask you about the Facebook groups really quick. So you were getting involved in groups. I've got two questions. The first is other groups that are out there. How do you, for everybody listening, how do you go get involved in the discussion on other groups without seeming like you're spamming and just trying to sell stuff?
um, as far as that goes, there's two things, and one is don't really care to look spammy. Um, for one, I guess like there is plenty of groups that I'll go and I'll post for sale posts in whenever, or share my for sale posts off my actual Facebook page into it. Um, but you kind of try to give back and you treat it kind of like a cocktail party. Whenever you're going around with a drink at a cocktail party and you're talking to people, you're having a conversation, and there's going to be times when you talk, and there's going to be times when they talk. There's going to be times when everyone kind of talks together in a group
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So you kind of treat it like that. This is going to be a rough description, but
That's okay.
um, so I just try to balance it out with the whole give like if I've got an article written up about say how to keep your calf healthy
Mm-hmm.
through the winter months by clipping, which
Mm-hmm.
I do is one of my more popular posts I made. Um, like I'll go and post stuff like that, and then I might follow it up in 2 weeks with the sale post.
Okay.
So the whole and that's a Gary V thing. Maybe I'm not living up quite to what he had in mind, but the whole thought is basically give more than you take,
Mm-hmm.
and you give more than you take, and people will end up thinking of you already. Like honestly, most of the groups I'm in, I've either been added to because someone saw a post where they thought I could help, tried to tag me, and realized I wasn't in the group,
Okay.
or people have tagged me in it, but I'm not part of the group, so I can't reply, and I'll just kind of
Okay.
request to be part of the group or whatnot. That's how most of them happen.
Okay. Well, let me ask you about the group that you started then. So, with the group that you started, you've got complete autonomy over that group. Do you just put your posts in there, or are you in there interacting with folks who are coming to you with questions and things like that?
Honestly, like the group thing is uh not as heavily utilized as my actual Facebook page and my cell number. I'm very quick to throw my cell number out.
Okay.
Uh, I don't really, I'm not really scared of prank calls or anything like that. Um, so I get a lot of just Facebook messages to my page or texts on my cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
and it ranges from "Hey, my clippers are doing this" to "Hey, what do you think I should feed my calf?"
Hmm.
So it's like I said, we're quite involved or try to be quite involved with showing cattle, as well as marketing cattle through the farm, and then at least on the Jersey side. And we do show some Holsteins, whatever data let me kind of take out and work with and whatnot. But so I get a lot of questions like that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not generally through the group. Um, they're more through either a Facebook message to my page or a text or call. But I'm in there posting posts. If anyone comments or whatnot, I will very quickly interact. Again, this is I'm gonna sound like a Gary V nut, and frankly, it's because I am. But that's something that Gary quite likes to say a lot is, if you've got a couple hundred followers, there's no reason for you to be that arrogant to not answer every comment.
I agree.
There
Agree.
just isn't. I am down to the point where if I've got it down so where if I see someone's shared a post of mine on Facebook, I'm commenting and saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it might seem silly, maybe it does nothing, but it can't hurt. And
Sure.
frankly, for the 2 seconds it takes you to type that out on your cell phone that you already have in your pocket 24/7, anyways, I don't see a point in not.
I agree.
So yeah, very active in that group whenever anyone has a question or a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as there's actually another sharpener, Alan Smith, and I believe he's in Oklahoma. He deals with a lot of. He's very heavily involved in sheep and goats,
Mm-hmm.
and fitting of those species more than cattle. But Alan has been a good guy just to talk to and bounce ideas off of. He deals with a few different types of clippers than I do, so or on a more regular basis, anyways. So it's always good to have a resource like that. And Alan's always asked me questions too. So Alan does the same sort of thing, um, making different informational posts. And the odd time he'll want to share one in there. Where I have no problem. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the point. Like as long as it's involved with fitting in some way of some species, fitting or showing of some species
Mm-hmm.
of livestock, it can go in that fitter's friend group. I don't screen it that hard. As long as it falls in those categories, then I have no problem adding it. And anyone that might say, "Oh, well, what if people start using Alan instead of you for sharpening? Well, then I didn't do a good enough job everywhere
Mm,
else, and that's my own.
mm. Awesome, Kyle. This is really exciting. You talked about not being afraid for people to call you and all that. Why don't you give everybody right now the best ways to contact you if they want to ask you questions or send you work or buy merch or whatever?
So best ways. My cell number is probably the best. Either a text or a call. Maybe a little old school. I'd much rather a call, but hey, if you just want to send a text, that's cool too. That's 705-872-2193.
And what's the country code for Canada?
One.
Oh, okay. I thought the
One
U.S.
705.
was one. You guys are one?
Right? They both are.
Oh, we're both the same. Oh, well, that
Yeah.
makes it easy. Okay, very good.
One 1-705-872-2193.
All right.
Or then a message, either Kyle Stockdale on Facebook, like my personal profile, or the Kai Vision Sharpening and Clipper Repair page. Snapchat is also a pretty good one to get me on, at Kai Vision Blades. And if you want to, Instagram's the same as Snapchat at Kai Vision Blades. Um, but that's about the best way is the cell number, and after that, it kind of goes to Facebook or Snapchat.
Okay. Well, everybody listening and everybody watching, I understand if you're opposed to social media. I get it. And I get it. Trust me, I truly get it. There's a lot of toxic stuff out on social media, but you're hearing it straight from Kyle, and Kyle is giving us a lesson in marketing and in growing and building a business in this day and age. And it is done on social media, you guys. And so if you're going to start your business, my goodness, you have to be there. You just got to find a way to ignore all that other stuff and focus on the folks that you're trying to reach and build the business. And Kyle, man, you started off the show by talking about not going to college. You'd rather make money than spend money. But I after listening to you this whole time, it feels like you got a degree in marketing. You've obviously self-taught a ton.
We've tried to, anyways. Yeah, just pay attention to, like I said, the biggest thing for me is pay attention to what people in other industries are doing, and there's no reason why those ideas can't be brought to agriculture. And frankly, see agriculture as one of the last places that new marketing ideas or techniques pop up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are paying attention to other industries, it's not hard to kind of stay ahead of the curve,
Mm-hmm.
um, because our industry can be kind of slow to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this today, man. This has been incredible.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, Matt, and I'll keep listening.
Thank you for being here, everybody, and thank you to Kyle Stockdale for coming on the show and sharing all of that great information with us today. Hey, we would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and be a subscriber to the Off Farm Income YouTube channel. And hey, outside of YouTube, I would love it if you would follow us over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all under the title Off Farm Income, everybody. And hey, as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.